while you were tucked away snug in your bed, countless bargain hunters were already scoping out door-crashing deals. We're, of course, talking about Black Friday this morning, the kickoff to the holiday shopping season. And for more on that, let's take you live to Greg Harper, who's at the Peace Arch border crossing this morning. Greg.
Good morning, Kyle. Yes, there are some BC shoppers that headed to the U.S. Last night, but nothing like we saw last year. This is what it looks like right now, northbound at the Peace Arch border crossing. Last year at this time, we saw massive lines, and actually the customs officer we dealt with this morning said he expected it to be a lot busier than it is. In contrast, you're looking at now vehicles heading into the U.S. a lot more busier. They just opened a couple more lanes, so perhaps that'll change. Perhaps what we're seeing is shoppers heading for Black Friday deals a bit later this year, because Bellis Fair, you're seeing it now, it was about half full just after 3 o'clock this morning. Last year it was packed. We did manage to speak to a number of BC shoppers, and here's what they thought about their experience. Was it worth it?
No.
Was no deals?
Well, no, I got a PS4. That was cool, but other than that, nah. I don't know. I'm not a big shopper, so.
There's a 55-inch TV in there.
Yeah, for $395. That's a pretty good deal.
So I always find it interesting, Kyle. Some say no deals, some say there are deals. And anyway, we are seeing a switch, I think, this year. It was definitely much more busier at this time during Black Friday last year. Kyle?
All right, Greg Harper live this morning at the Peace Arch. Greg, thanks for that. A woman is dead after being hit by a school bus in South Vancouver. It happened last night at Oak Street and Park Drive. The bus, which had no children on board, was turning left on Oak to go westbound on Park when it struck the 66-year-old woman. She was rushed to hospital but later died from her injuries. Officers say the bus driver is cooperating with their investigation. This is Vancouver's 11th fatal collision this year. 4 of those fatalities have been pedestrians. A man from Burnaby has been charged in connection with Vancouver's first homicide of the year. Back in February, an argument escalated into a fight at West Georgia and Granville Streets. It ended up with a man being stabbed, and he later died in hospital. 23-year-old Kenneth Bryson Williams has now been charged with 1 count of second-degree murder. He's due in court later in the morning. Human remains found in Langley earlier this week have now been identified as a man from Edmonton. The body of 34-year-old David Tan Lam was found on Tuesday off Highway 1 near 64th Avenue and 248th Street. He was known to police and had a criminal record dating back to 1998. Investigators still don't know the motive, but believe the homicide is linked to criminal activity. A disciplinary decision is expected to be issued later today for a Vancouver police officer who pushed a disabled woman to the ground. Constable Taylor Robinson was caught on camera pushing Sandy Davidson to the ground on his first assignment in the downtown east side 4 years ago. Robinson has admitted to an abuse of authority and neglect of duty, but he calls the defensive push an innocent mistake. Davidson's lawyer hopes Commissioner Wally Opal will send a message to officers found guilty of misconduct.
There's been an overall attitude from police forces that when misconduct is found, then a 1 or 2 day suspension is the norm. And I think what we're hoping to see is a clear message that this is not the case. The new act suggests we really should be looking at higher suspensions. It has to mean something. You know, when an officer is found guilty of misconduct, suspension is the only way for it to hit home.
Police dogs in BC are set to be subjected to some new rules. The province has introduced a list of do's and don'ts when it comes to the training and deployment of police dogs. A report earlier this year from the Pivot Legal Society says the dogs are the leading causes of injury by RCMP and municipal forces in this province. The new standards include clarifying when a dog may bite and that a verbal warning must be given before the dog is used.
Before these regulations, we really had almost no laws on when a police dog could be used. And I would say these regulations kind of bring in the common sense element. If you're dealing with a youth, if you're dealing with someone who's accused of shoplifting, a very minor crime, the consequences of a police dog bite could be far, out of proportion to what the offense was committed, and that person might not be a danger.
Yes, they're new with regards to the guidelines that are set for police officers throughout the province, but for Vancouver, they haven't changed. They're for the most part written the same way our policies have been written, and we've been acting on those guidelines for many years now.
The regulations come into effect in September of next year. Charges have been dropped against dozens of protesters who were arrested on Burnaby Mountain. A BC Supreme Court judge threw out the civil contempt charges after Kinder Morgan admitted using incorrect GPS coordinates in their injunction. They're conducting drilling and survey work at the site for a proposed expansion of the Trans Mountain pipeline. A group of First Nations leaders were arrested on the mountain yesterday, led by Grand Chief Stuart Phillip.
This is a serious paradigm shift in this country. I think the citizens of this country and Indigenous peoples are sick and tired of the ham-fisted, heavy-handed tactics of the Harper government and the Clark government, and that's what we're seeing here today.
Kinder Morgan's application to extend the injunction was rejected, so workers have to leave the site by Monday. Well, the Grey Cup will be handed out in downtown Vancouver on Sunday afternoon. The Hamilton Tiger Cats play the Calgary Stampeders at BC Place. The game gets underway at 3 p.m.
Coming for you. Better bring up the fun.
Nice.
You can see excitement is building in downtown Vancouver. Here's a look at some of the festivities happening today. There's the CFL Alumni Legends Luncheon happening at 11 a.m. at the Vancouver Convention Centre. The Red Truck Tailgate concert series continues. Tonight is Country Music Night with headliner Tim Hicks. That's also at the Convention Centre. And also tonight is the Canadian Hall of Fame party, where the 2015 induction class will be announced live. Hall of Famers Don Narcisse and Damon Allen will also be there, and that happens at the Hyatt.
To be quite frankly with you, it doesn't matter what teams are in it, because to me, the Grey Cup is all about the festivals going into it. And I mean, the game actually, for most people, comes second. You get so caught up in the activities in the days leading up to the big game, and you kind of, oh, wait a second, there's a game going on.
Looking good there. Hey, the CFL handed out its awards last night. BC Lions linebacker Solomon Elimimian went home the big winner. He became the first pure defensive player to capture the CFL's most outstanding player honor, while also being named the league's top defensive player. Switching gears to hockey, the Vancouver Canucks kick off a 7-game, 12-day road trip today in Columbus. Puck drops at 4 p.m. this afternoon. You can watch the match over on Sportsnet Pacific. Now, the Rogers Hometown Hockey Tour is in Brandon, Manitoba, ahead of Sunday morning's game for the Vancouver Canucks. BT Winnipeg's Drew Koza has a preview.
Greetings from the Wheat City. It's Drew Koza, remote host of Breakfast Television in Winnipeg. But today, we've taken the BT Live Eye about 2.5 hours west of Winnipeg to the second largest city in Manitoba, Brandon, which is the staging grounds for Rogers Hometown Hockey this weekend. It's all going on right here in and around the Keystone Center, with so many different activities for the family, including the big outdoor viewing party for the Detroit Red Wings Vancouver Canucks games. And that's what Rogers Hometown Hockey is all about, finding these great local grassroots hockey things that we can share with everyone across the country. We're celebrating Rogers Hometown Hockey right here this weekend in Brandon, Manitoba.
All right, so thank you very much, Drew. Rogers Hometown Hockey Tour, as he mentioned, on Sunday, live from Brandon, Manitoba, with Ron McLean, a special 10:30 a.m. start, followed by an 11 a.m. game with the Canucks visiting the Red Wings in Detroit. Watch it right here on City. As for what's on tap for Hockey Night in Canada tomorrow, the Montreal Canadiens hosting the Buffalo Sabres at 4 p.m. right here on City. Canucks having the night off.